If you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe and become part of this community. Oh, and also, go cop that fresh merch and listen to my new album in the description. Alright, let's talk about Donda and CLB again, because obviously there's been a lot of discussion going around, a lot of opinions being thrown around as to who actually had the better album, Kanye or Drake, Donda, CLB respectively, because obviously, as I've went over in a lot of previous videos, these are the two most anticipated releases of 2021. We've been talking about both of them for over a year now, because they were both supposed to drop over a year ago, and now we finally got them within 5 days, both of them. Could be, you know, some kind of element of one was waiting for the other to drop and the other way around. I went over that in another video, so go check that out if you haven't yet. But let's actually talk about the albums, because I've dropped a review on both of them, but I still gotta, you know, kind of compare them and see which one I thought was actually better. So let's look into it. So starting off with CLB, because I kind of changed my opinion on this ever since I dropped that review and ever since I talked about it with you guys on the live stream, on the Discord, and all that good stuff, because CLB really grew on me. Like, CLB to me right now, I listen to it more than Donda. To me, it has more replay value. I'm not exactly sure what this exactly has to do with. I think it is because, as for example, on the Discord, Suavo was preaching this, the individual songs on there are actually pretty good. Like, you can listen to any song on CLB, almost any song, and as a standalone track, it will sound good, you know? Drake didn't really do anything crazy that he could have failed with, that he could have missed with, that he could have, you know, done wrong with. So he really played it kind of safe by putting just solid songs on here just as a kind of a playlist. But that is the problem that I have with CLB that I also mentioned in the past, is that as a project, it doesn't really sound like he sat down and was like, I want to create this masterpiece. What I did like about it, though, what I now notice after I'm listening to the individual songs again more and more, which I didn't really the first couple of times that I listened to the whole album. Maybe it was because it just kind of got boring and tedious after a while, which I still think that way. But I like that he really focused on one sound. That one sound from Drake that I really like, that like very cloudy, eerie, 40 type beat, type of vibe. That sound, I love that sound. That's my favorite Drake sound. I said that in the past as well, y'all know that. So I like that most of these instrumentals are that way. It feels like they're floating. It feels like some 2013 singles on SoundCloud type Drake shit, you feel me? So that's why I like the individual songs in here quite a lot, but just as a whole album, that sound can really, you know, without all the basses and stuff like that, it can tire out your ears if you listen to all the songs in one go, because obviously there's also a very long album, 1.5 hours in runtime, nothing compared to Donda with almost 2 hours, but still, both of them quite long and extensive albums. Let's move on to Donda, though, now that I've talked about CLB and how it grew on me, how as a whole project I don't like it as much, even though I like that he focused on a sound, but the individual tracks are great. They have more replay value than I think a lot of the Donda tracks, and I'm listening to CLB more. Now let's look at Donda, and to me, Donda still, to this day, it feels more like a masterpiece. I know this has to do with all the mystery surrounding it, because obviously I was also really into it, all the listening parties, all the elements. We had, you know, Kanye with his Mason Margiela fashion references, and Demna Gvasalia, you know, co-executive or creative producing the whole shows and stuff like that, and just the whole rollout was way more amazing than Drake with his just a very lazy cover art with those 9 pregnant or 12 pregnant emojis, even though of course the black cover art for Kanye is nothing special either, but still the whole rollout of this thing felt more like Kanye was in his zone. He was, you know, just locked in and trying to create a masterpiece, and that's why each song on Donda to me has more importance. It has a lot more weight to it. Like, you actually feel like this song has undergone some creative process, and it's not just, you know, Drake in the studio trying to catch a vibe type of stuff, if you feel me, if you know what I'm saying. Obviously, Donda isn't perfect. There are a lot of mixing issues, for example. I mean, check out Tell the Vision, check out some of the verses that are on the latter half of the album. Sometimes they're not mixed properly, sometimes the vocal effects don't really fit right, sometimes the leveling is off. It just feels a lot more messy. Obviously, obviously the rollout was also very messy because they, released the album on a Sunday, and Kanye said that Universal released the album without actually getting his approval. We had the whole thing with that Jail Part 2 being blocked because the baby's manager didn't clear the baby's verse on there. So I would, describe Donda as like a messy but still beautiful masterpiece. And I think Donda in 10 years, in 20 years, will have more, kind of a bigger legacy, more of a long leg than CLB. And it will influence some of the sounds more, even though Kanye is already, riding on a lot of waves on Donda that other people before him have created, have initiated. He's not on some Yeezus type stuff where he's just completely doing something crazy and every track is like that. Obviously, a lot of mainstream features on here, ranging from Lil Baby to The Weeknd to Lil Yachty to Vori, who killed it. So obviously, it's not, on some Yeezus or 808s where people don't understand it when it comes out, but then 10 years later they will. But I do think that CLB will be just looked at as another, Drake album with some hits that were popping at the time, but it didn't really leave a legacy for music and for other people to get inspired by. That's why I still think that Donda is the better album as an album, as a full body of art, full body of work. But I'm going back to CLB more often. I'm listening to the tracks on CLB more often. In the end, I can only say these are two different projects. Don't compare the GOATs. I've been seeing a lot of that thrown around on the internet as well. They're comparing them to like Drake is LeBron and Kanye is Michael Jordan, and you can't really compare them. They both did it their own way. They went their own lanes, like J. Cole once said on his, I think, the warm-up. And that's why I wouldn't really compare the two albums just track to track or, go head-to-head like that, but rather say, let's accept both of them. Let's just, let them exist and breathe for a bit. We can appreciate both. I have my personal preferences, listening to CLB more, but still think Donda is the better album. But in the end, it doesn't really matter. We just all appreciate music, and we all love Drake and Kanye, even though they may not love each other. So that's my take on this, but obviously that's only my opinion. Now, it's really interesting to see what y'all think about this. Who do you think had the better album, Donda, CLB, Kanye, or Drake? Very interesting discussion, because to have two such big artists drop within 5 days of each other, also with their whole beef going on, it was a pretty cool moment for hip-hop, and I think we're going to look back on this, as the week that Donda and CLB dropped in a couple of years still, because this is pretty big. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below. If you watched this video to the end and liked it, and you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, hit that like button, and go follow my social media and blog down in the description. It really helps me out. Until the next one, y'all have an incredible day, and y'all take care.